Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the Flow Pro Show. And I'm
Yeah,
Sandy.
I'm Daniel.
I'm coming to you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania this month. Where are you, Daniel?
I'm in Utrecht.
Okay.
I just came back from Warsaw,
All right.
so
That looked like a blast.
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, and then you and I saw each other, was that just last week?
Yeah,
No, the week before
well,
in Amsterdam.
uh,
It's been a week already,
geez,
somehow.
yeah,
I don't know how awake either of us was for that.
yeah. And a week before was, of course, in Seattle. So
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yep. It's been kind of crazy.
hmm
Well, so anyway, so sorry we're to our loyal audience that we're a little bit behind on our March show here, but we were busy at MVP Summit and other conferences. We did record some special interviews with Flow MVPs, and so that'll be later on in the show. But for now, we're recording this part. And next month though, for our April show, we plan to do another live show like we did in February.
Yeah,
Great.
looking forward to it.
Okay. So first off, we were going to talk about some Flow news. So what's new since our last episode? And because we were so busy uh, doing important things, speaking at conferences and so on, we didn't put together a little slideshow, but I'll put the links in the comments in YouTube later. But so we want to look at some of the blog posts on the Flow blog that were since the last show. So things during March that came out. One is custom response actions for options for approvals, meaning that you can now add more options besides just accept and reject. Right? Have you tried that yet?
Not yet, but I think it's something that we really should like because there's so many scenarios for that. Really, it's like a task form where you can just ask some extra or you can put in some extra responses.
Mhm.
I'm really looking forward to the next level though because I want to see multiple questions. That's
Uh-huh.
something I'm really looking forward to.
Oh, that sounds tricky.
Yeah, well, I would love to see something like you ask somebody for some more input,
Hmm.
not just one question, but a couple
Hmm.
of questions,
Hmm.
um, and then you go on with your flow.
Right,
That's
right.
kind of yeah something a lot of processes need.
Hmm. That
Um,
makes sense.
but this is a great first step actually.
Okay.
So I think they did it
Uh-oh.
are kind of this because it's a fee, but yeah, I think it's worth the money because
Okay.
there's so much in there.
Because this is, I think I lost a little bit of your audio, but so maybe you said, but yeah, it's going to be a premium connector, right? This the one to
Yeah.
do the additional options.
hmm
Yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
P1, I think.
Yeah, and it's P1 is a great value now because you
Mm-hmm.
have the HTTP connector, of course.
Mm-hmm.
You have the custom responses, and there's even more in there like custom connectors and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. Okay. Next up, there was a pretty big blog post that listed a couple new features, like posting adaptive cards to a Teams channel as the Flowbot.
Yeah.
And in that blog post, it had a link to the adaptive card designer, which I had never played with before, but I have now. And I think it's very cool to be able to just kind of like drag elements onto a card and make your own adaptive cards to post in Teams,
Yeah.
like with images and text blocks and group, like containers of things and stuff like that. I thought it was very cool.
Yeah. It totally is because I see it a lot from happening in teams
Hmm.
because there's so many interesting scenarios for that. And of course, the first thing they did before this was the actionable messages in Outlook,
Mm.
and this is kind of the next step. And yeah, now they are trying to do that in Teams some more. And yeah,
So can you use that same designer to create the Outlook messages? I didn't try that.
Well, adaptive cards, I don't know actually
Oh, oh.
where they are available, but they first had the actionable messages.
Mm.
That was there for a couple of
Yeah, I
years
guess that's
now,
something different. Mm.
and now the adaptive cards are there, and they are kind of similar, but a little bit different.
Mm.
So yeah, and
Yeah, I guess that's true.
these adaptive cards are being used by the bot framework, of course, and
Mm. Yeah, because
so
actually in that designer, there's a drop down and it defaults to the web bot, I think is what it says, but there were other choices in there too that you're creating adaptive cards for different environments, I guess.
yeah, because not everything has the same features, of course, because
Mm.
some clients are not capable of showing some of the features in there.
Mm. And then I think, and you were saying to me before that we think then, like, if you want to get input back to your flow from a card, like, because there are different input elements that you can
Yeah,
add to an adaptive card, like a choice or a toggle, that then you would use some sort of action to trigger another flow, or
yeah.
I probably.
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible to do an action in there and
Okay.
then submit something or create a HTTP or an
Mm,
yeah, some kind of link URL.
okay. Yeah, I'll have to play around with that some more. I just did briefly, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, me too. I still have to look at the whole flow implementation because I haven't done that yet. But I know this from the whole bot framework part, and it's really cool.
Okay, cool. Another thing, another new Teams action is to just generally post a message as the Flowbot, and apparently coming will be the ability to @mention someone because neither Daniel or I could get that working
Yeah,
by using the @tag. So maybe that's not quite out yet, but that'll be a handy thing, I think, so that you can so your flow can draw somebody's attention to something that's been posted.
yeah. I think that's really interesting because
Mm,
at mentions, I also saw that I think on the Twitter connector
mm.
um, that it wasn't possible to add mention somebody with tweets. I don't
In
know if they
I
already
think
fixed
that's
that in Flow.
true. I'm not sure about that. I know that that has been true.
Yeah, it could be an API problem, by the way,
Mm,
that Twitter
mm,
just doesn't want to make that happen for other parties. That
true,
could be
true.
a problem.
Yeah, true. I'll have to try that again
Because
another time.
yeah, but maybe that's also a problem for now for Teams.
Mm, could be. Well, although you'd think the APIs should be made available to Microsoft, but
I hope
anyway.
so.
Okay. In that same article, there was a mention that that Flow, and by the way, Power Apps also was made generally available for the U.S. government cloud, but that it's not all connectors, and they've made some revisions to the connector documentation, which, by the way, I noticed a couple weeks ago or so that I like the whole new top section in the connectors documentation where it shows like whether that connector is available in Flow or Power Apps or Logic Apps or
Oh yeah, that's good.
all three or whatever. That's really helpful. And then I guess it's also going to show which ones are not available for the government cloud. But and I was curious whether there's something similar to that in European countries. So I guess not exactly. You
No,
were saying.
no, I think a lot of government parts in Europe um, they are already okay with having it in the European Union.
Mm.
So if it's in Ireland or in Amsterdam, that's just fine for them. Um, but still, people are
If the
afraid
data,
sometimes.
if the data center is, or if
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So usually it's about the data center and the fallback option.
Mm.
So if the data center is in Amsterdam and the fallback option is also in the European Union, then they're
Mm.
totally fine.
Mm.
But still, there are some government parts that don't like to have stuff in the cloud.
Mm.
And that's a whole different part.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the issue was with the US government cloud, because obviously there are plenty of data centers and fallbacks in the US, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was a matter of the data sovereignty or what you may call that,
Wow.
but more of must have to do with security, I guess.
Yeah, I think so too. I thought the German story was really interesting when they had the German data center for Azure.
Mm.
I don't know if you ever heard about that, but because of the whole safe harbor, how is it called? The law in America.
Uh,
I think there's like a
it
law
might
in
be
America that,
something like that. Yeah.
well, there's kind of a law that um, would give the power to the American government
Right,
to
right. I
get
think that's.
everything from a data center in uh, another country
Mm,
when it's an American company.
mm.
So when Microsoft has a data center in Germany, um, the American government would be able to get or retrieve data from there, even if it's a company outside the US.
Oh, I guess I hadn't quite realized that it had to do with the fact that Microsoft was a US company.
Yeah, that's a problem
Mm,
because the data is being owned by Microsoft, but
mm,
not really actually. It's kind of a difficult point, but
mm.
uh, what Microsoft did was they asked, I think it was T Systems, to build the data center there.
Oh,
So
okay.
there was a German company that built the data center, and
Oh.
they leased it to Microsoft.
Oh, no,
So
I hadn't heard that part.
they did some kind of trick to make sure that the German companies were okay with it.
Huh.
And that's really interesting to see stuff
Yeah.
like that because
Yeah,
they
yeah.
were kind of trying to find a loophole actually.
Mm.
And I
Hmm.
don't know how the American government thinks about that, but
Right. Well, of
yeah.
course, I mean, Microsoft always says that they aren't going to give up people's data anyway, in any case, but and I know that I think I know that they do fight that
Yeah,
when they're asked to, but
yeah, totally.
anyway. Okay, cool. And then last thing in that article was about some improvements to business process flow authoring, as opposed to, well, I guess one of the things is making the designer more similar to the automated flow design canvas, which is the one that we're used to just for like regular flow. But
Well,
to be honest, I haven't used business process flows yet much
I think
myself.
I think the problem was that the offering experience opened in a pop-up
Mm.
in a separate tab, and now it doesn't open a separate tab anymore. It just opens in the
Uh,
same window. So you get an experience that you're still in the Flow Designer actually.
oh, okay. Well, I thought from the screenshot too, it looked like maybe it looked a little
Yeah,
more similar, as opposed to looking sort of, to my mind, like Salesforce.
yeah,
Because I'm not sure who copied from who there, but the process flow in Dynamics looks an awful
yeah,
lot like the one in Salesforce, or vice versa. I don't know,
yeah.
but maybe not so much now.
Yeah, and the other thing that's really interesting is, of course, the common data service entities.
Mm,
You used to uh, have to opt in to that entity
mm,
um, before you could use it. Before you could use it into business process flow,
mhm.
and now it's standard to have that. So you can just create a new business process flow and then select the entity you want.
Oh, so it's just available.
Yeah.
Mm.
So you have like every entity available now there.
Oh, cool. Okay,
So that's a
great.
good thing.
Yeah. So I think that's it for our news.
Hmm.
How about some things from around the community? Did you want
Yeah.
to talk about some videos? And again, we'll put the links, unless you want to share anything on your
Yeah.
screen.
Well, I saw a really interesting video of Ahmad together with John Levesque. Yeah, it's really cool that he did a deep dive on the Teams connector.
Okay.
So we kind of showed how to how to work with the Teams connector in Flow and what's always possible.
Was that before or after these new couple ones that we just talked about, the new Teams actions? Did you
I
notice?
think it was just before that.
Mm.
So I think the video released just around the blog post. So I don't know if they're in there. I forgot actually. I saw it, but I don't know for sure if they show them. I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I'll have to watch that myself.
Yes, but it's a really cool thing that Jon is kind of getting all the MVPs in there. He's asking Ahmad to do some connectors. I did a video with him on the Word connector, and I'm really looking forward to other really cool videos. So what do you want to do, Sandy?
Yeah, I guess I better get on the ball here. Probably something to do with SharePoint, but I'll have to think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jon, if you're listening, and I hope
he'd better be listening.
Yeah. You should totally make that happen. So, and did you see something cool?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's exactly counts as community because it's the Flow team. So another bit of news since our last show is that Audrey Gordon has moved from Power Apps to Flow, which is pretty darn cool because she's awesome. And she put out a video last week. I don't know when that'll be by the time this airs, but about so having to do with approvals, she showed how you can put all of the approvals that have to do with a specific SharePoint list or site, I think, in SharePoint as an embedded Power App, and showing it would be not only your own approvals that you've sent and received, but also any other approvals that are taking place on that list or having to do with that site. So she showed part of the flow part of that in a video last week, and then she gave sort of a teaser and said she was going to show how she did the Power Apps part in her next video, which I'm very curious to see exactly how that was done. But we're thinking something in the Flow admin.
Yeah, I think it could be something in the Flow admin part, or maybe in the CDS connector. Because the CDS connector, of course, contains the entities in the CDS. And one of the entities is, of course, approvals. And then you can probably get all the approvals and also take a look at where it originated. So when it's a SharePoint list, you can filter on those and get all the ones from your SharePoint site or SharePoint list even.
It's very cool. And so she's got kind of cards showing as you do normally, but she's really powered them up with a thumbnail of the document that's being approved, for example, right in the card, and images of the users and like who's sending the approval, who's doing the approval. It's very, very cool.
Yeah. And does it also show like the days that are left or something like that?
I think she said she's it didn't in last week's video, but I think she said she's adding some things like that,
cool.
like a due date, and yeah. So that will be very.
That's cool.
Yep. I think you had another YouTube video you had found. You sent me the link.
There was the one from Ahmad, I think.
Yeah.
Another one from Ahmad. It could be the one with the SQL connector, but I don't know if that still counts as this month. But he also did one with Jon on SQL.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's also a really interesting one because lots of people are using that. And there's a lot of cool actions in there, like execute a stored procedure and stuff like that, or get SQL views, and there's so many cool actions in there, and it's also by Jon and Ahmad, so yeah, that will be fun.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted to mention real quick too that John put out a video of a Flow MVP retreat that we had right after MVP Summit. So that's just kind of a more of a fun one. You know, a bunch
Is
of
it?
us went to the. I think a bunch of us went to the mountains, and some people skied, and we played deck wars and
Yeah, that was fun.
walked around in the snow and stuff like that. And then another thing I just wanted to mention community-wise, last or whenever that was, a week and a half ago in Amsterdam at the Power Platform Summit,
Yeah.
me and Daniel and John and Fausto
Also, yeah.
put together a Flow pub trivia for one of our sessions. It was, and we had really good response. I think we had about 30 people divided up into teams, and we tried to play it like you would pub trivia, and like we had rounds of questions about different topics in Flow, and had beer and wine, and the team who won a bunch of Flow T-shirts, and John emceed it and asked the questions, and we did scoring and stuff. I thought it was really fun.
Yeah,
Everybody
I did
enjoyed it.
too.
Yeah,
It was a
so
great idea.
so we
Well
could
done.
license that concept.
Yeah.
If anybody's
Yeah.
interested in having us present Flow Pub Trivia at their event, just let
Yeah.
us know.
Yeah, there's still some photos on the on the Twitter sphere somewhere.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I think that's maybe it from our community roundup. And so now we're going to go into our interviews that we did at MVP Summit. And thanks to Gabriel for putting that together for us.
yeah.
And then we'll sign off, I guess, and
Hmm?
see you in a few weeks. Hopefully, is our plan is to have a live show in just a couple of weeks, and probably talk about April release notes.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Uh-huh.
So first, let's roll our videos.
Yes. Yep. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Hi, I'm here with Serge Luca, who's Dr. Flow, and who is just awarded as MVP of the year of the business applications category. How does that feel, Serge?
Oh, I was very surprised.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
Okay.
I feel very, very good. Yes.
Cool. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. So my real name is Dr. Flo. Some people know me as Serge Luca, and I'm an MVP in two branches in Office 365 and also in business application.
Okay.
And my passion are Flow and Office 365.
Okay. And where are you from?
I'm from Belgium, so I speak French. And sorry for my non-native English.
That's very nice to hear.
Yeah.
And what would you say your specialty is in Flow?
My specialty, I would like to say, is more enterprise flow and patterns.
Okay.
So yes, because I'm an architect and I like high-level pictures,
Okay.
but also some nitty-gritty details.
Okay.
But I like the high picture, so
Okay.
patterns fit me.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit and ask what's your favorite Flow feature?
My favorite flow feature. There's so many flow features. I think it's probably the approval.
Ah, okay. Okay, cool.
Because there's so many things to say about approval.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We're
my-
just introducing Flow MVPs, and we're really
My
happy to
pleasure.
know you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we're here at Leavenworth, and we went to the MVP Summit for a while, and we're here with Melissa Hubbard. Yay! Flow MVP, and well, she's a book author, actually. Yeah, about teams and really cool stuff about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, tell me, what do you do actually?
So we're here for our second MVP summit. Actually, last year is when I met Daniel and a lot of the other Flow MVPs. So we're really excited to be back. It's been a lot different experience for the second time around. The product has come so far, and we have a lot more people joining us this year. So our group of Flow MVPs has grown as well. So it's been really cool to come back for the second time and see the excitement that we've built over the year, all the new features, and talk to everyone about what they've been working on. And yes, so I have published a book in the meantime this year, and I'm also focusing on the integration of Microsoft Teams and Flow.
So what's your favorite feature?
My favorite feature, I have two, templates and approvals. I do really tend to bring the voice of the power user for Flow, and I feel passionately that we need to empower our power users to be able to create really valuable solutions as quickly as possible. So templates and approvals, I feel, are two features that really bring a lot to that. Templates because it gives you an idea of what's possible, and you can easily change templates to meet more complex business needs if needed. And approvals because as someone who comes from a SharePoint designer workflow background, being able to approve from your phone, from the website, from an email, having those choices and being able to see everything in a centralized place really is great.
So you must be really excited about the custom options with approvals?
I am, yes. So the new things that were released, really excited about, and definitely stay tuned because we have blog posts coming on that.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And yeah, I'll see you next year.
Yes, I'll see you next year.
Hi, I'm here today with Ahmad Najjar, who is a Flow MVP. And tell us a little bit about yourself, Ahmad.
Yeah, so again, my name is Ahmad Najjar. I'm based in Oslo in Norway. I work at InfoWorkers as a senior consultant.
Okay, great. What would you say is your specialty in regards to Flow?
Yeah, so first of all, as I said, like I'm an MVP in business applications. I had this special connection with Flow ever since they released it in 2016. Started playing around it when there was like still in a beta version. The really thing that I love about Flow is actually the easiness of how you could build really good solutions for both developers and citizen developers at the same time, in which you could just do a lot of productivity with just easy steps, just building blocks, drag and drop sort of thing, you know? And that's something that I really like about Flow. The other thing is actually the integration capabilities is that you have a lot of connectors that connects to the Office 365 apps and services such as SharePoint, Planner, to-do list, and a lot of connectors that are within Flow.
Great. What do you typically speak about when you speak at conferences?
Yeah, so mostly I actually speak about Flow.
But I mean, what about Flow? What sort of topics?
Yeah, so the topics is actually just Flow with SharePoint and how you could achieve productivity and how you could just do kind of really robust and automate solutions using Flow in SharePoint. So that's mainly what I talk about. And recently I started doing this connector-based videos with Jon Ahmad. And it's kind of like, you know, I'm just focusing on what are the capabilities of Flow. But usually back to the point where you're talking about what are the topics that I talk about in the sessions is actually Flow with SharePoint, Flow with Power Apps, and there's a couple of sessions that I did last year and I'm going to be doing this year as well, which is a comparison between Flow and Logic Apps, and just kind of like, you know, splitting the difference when to use what, when, how, and where.
Okay, cool. And if you had to name one feature of Flow that's your favorite, what would you say?
Oh, it's a really good question. Well, actually, I think the SharePoint connector, I think by far is one of my favorite, because at the beginning we had those really different kind of connectors, but now with the SharePoint connector, and they have released that, I think they're probably a year ago, which is send HTTP request to SharePoint. Which makes it easy that you could just call all the kinds of APIs that you use with SharePoint from Flow. So that gives actually capabilities and possibilities to developers to kind of develop those kind of things. And at some point, you know, the connector was limited to the offered connectors, but right now with the send HTTP request to SharePoint, the possibilities are unlimited because you're not limited by the things that are available within the connector, but also you could do the things that you could do with the API, the REST API in SharePoint. So I think that's my favorite connector.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thanks very much for being with us. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you very much.